Well, that leaves us with our final presenter. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Gaurav Sanghvi of Pentaspace Consultants. Can we have a final round of applause for our final speaker, Mr. Gaurav Sanghvi?
I don't see many people. That's the idea, to be last. So AK-47 files, it's a pretty weird topic. So it all starts with a call, basically from my client. And he says that I'm sending you a brief. Just go through the brief and give me a call. I say, okay, can you just mail it to me? He said, no, I'm just personally delivering it to you. I said, okay, send it across. I get the brief. It's a huge brief. There are two parts to the brief. There's a United Nations entire document for South Sudan, and there's a brief of designing a capital city for South Sudan in that. He told me to give him a call post I received the brief. So I did that, and when I spoke to him, he said that I need a design on this. Say we got to go and present to the President of South Sudan in 2 months' time. Fine. So my team gets cracking on the job on hand. We had to create 4 months out of 2 months. So basically, we started working day and night to actually have a presentation in place and go to South Sudan and present to the president. So within 2 months, we were ready with the entire presentation. We had a model in place. We chartered a flight from here to Kenya. That was the first destination. We reached Kenya and we made some official presentations to some of the official South Sudanese authorities. So we made these presentations to some South Sudanese representatives. They read the presentation. Then we got a date with the president of South Sudan, Mr. Kiir. So from Kenya, we again chartered a flight to Juba, that's the capital of South Sudan. And as soon as you land, in Juba, it's a war-torn country. They've just gone through a civil war. South Sudan had just got independence in 2011, and I had been flown in to South Sudan just few months after they getting independence. So you could feel that tension in the air. You could feel that there was, it's a war-torn country. So that's South Sudan. That's the flag of South Sudan. 9 July 2011, they get independence. We land in Juba, their capital, and we got to make a presentation to the president shortly. So, like any architect, I requested my client that I think it's time that we, at least have a look at the site. It was a 10,000-acre site on which we had to conceptualize a city, which was the capital city of South Sudan, which was across the Nile. If you see there, that's Juba, that's the capital, that's the Nile. So it was across the Nile. And so my client said that, yes, it makes sense. Let's just at least visit the site. So he hires a car. He hires a Hummer because he wanted to off-road in South Sudan. And I wanted to see the site. So we crossed the, okay, these are the guys I'm going to present to. So I was already overwhelmed with, the entire environment out there. Being an architect, when you go for a presentation, you want that kind of, you got to prepare yourself. And here, you're seeing guns and you're seeing a lot of people you're not used to seeing. So it was pretty overwhelming at that time. We were there for a couple of weeks. So that's the bridge, if you see. So we went off-roading from that bridge into the mainland. That was the board, Welcome to Africa's Youngest Nation. We went off-roading, we went on that side, we went to the side, we took some photographs. The story doesn't end there. The story starts getting more interesting here. On our way back, when we reached the bridge, the entire bridge was barricaded by the common guys out there with AK-47s and rocket launchers. because they thought that we were rebels. So we were stopped at the bridge. These guys come all around the car, and they were pointing guns at us. And we didn't know what to do, because number one, we didn't understand the language. And they were pretty upset about something what we had done there. The only saving grace we had is that we had a South Sudanese guide with us who spoke to them and explained them that we'd come to present for the city, and we were officials invited for the presentation. Even then, the common guys out there, they are all loaded with AK-47s. They made sure that none of the photographs could go through. They took away our cell phones, they took away our cameras, they threw it, they broke it, they actually shot it in front of us. And through all of this, you know, it was pretty high intensity, frankly speaking. We go back somehow, we go back to our accommodation, and we still have a presentation to make. So number one, I'm an architect who's actually, you know, pretty young. That was overwhelmed with the entire situation of presenting to a president of a country, a concept of a city. Number two, you go through this entire episode which is happening. And so it was a cocktail of emotions which was going, you know, through my heart, my mind. It was a complete chaos, frankly speaking. So when we were designing this city in 2 months, so we went through this entire process of understanding what is happening out there physically. So we have a giraffe city which was getting planned. We have a rhino city which was getting planned. So we were just trying to understand and get into the psyche that what are these guys looking for? Because South Sudan particularly was a very new independent nation, and they don't really have a history to actually fall back on, you know, to actually create something from that. So they were actually looking at Africa being, you know, that's what our interpretation was, you know, it's usually known for its wildlife. So that was an immediate reaction, you know, that why don't we make cities out of what people come to Africa for? So we went deeper inside. We said that, okay, let's keep that aside. Let's think of how are we going to plan this thing. So we have an existing city, that's Juba. We proposed an industrial zone, and that was the proposed city of freedom across the River Nile. So we tried to create a sustainable system, basically, because a new city is impossible to, you know, it has to integrate with the existing city. So we got the basics in place. We have admin areas, we have housing areas, we have recreational zones, educational zones, healthcare zones. So we were just trying to understand what goes in making a city. We went through a lot of data of Chandigarh. We went through a lot of data of cities which were being planned. So we tried to understand what's happening with the team which we had of master planners, urban planners, architects. So what we felt is there has to be a driving concept behind this entire, you know, thing. If I'm making a city for South Sudan, what is the closest thing to their heart at that moment? You know, that if one gets freedom, what is the most important thing he's actually, you know, fighting for? And that is the flag. That's the independence. That is his identity. So we felt that, you know, we should have a concept around this flag. So we went deeper into understanding what the flag was. So the black represents the Sudanese people. The white is the peace, which is no longer there. They are again into civil war. The bloodshed, the red is the bloodshed for the freedom. Green is the agricultural land because of the Nile. And that's, the blue represents the water of the Nile. And that represents the Star of Bethlehem. Basically, South Sudan is mostly Christian. So the gold star represented the unity of the states of Southern Sudan. So we took this as a primary concept because that is what actually distinguished them, and that is what they were fighting for. So we come up with this entire concept of, you know, of the city around this entire star. Just taking you briefly into what we had presented, because I don't think I don't have enough time to actually take you to all the details. So if you see, all the tentacles are the neighborhoods, the housing neighborhoods. which was sandwiched with the three, the pillars of any city: the healthcare sector, recreational sector, and the educational sector. We have business cultural areas. We have the city center. We called it the city of freedom. That is what we had designed for. There was a basic brief by the Sudanese for housing, class 1, class 2, class 3 kind of typology of housing. That was the brief which was set by them. So we've put it into the tentacle, making it a sustainable neighborhood, basically, with all the amenities which need to be there for a sustainable neighborhood. Again, within the 500-meter walking radiuses, the dimensioning was done according to that. These are some of the images which we had generated for the housing in South Sudan. That's the city in images, brisking you through what all we've done. That's the healthcare sector zone. That was the administrative block along the Nile. That was the shopping street which we had envisaged. That was an educational campus road. That was the business center. We'd worked with service consultants because there was a population which we need to house in that city which was given. So there was a treatment plant designed as per that. There was transportation, ring roads designed as per that. So basically, we'd present it to the president, and so then we come to the main area, the city center, and again, we went back to the drawing board saying that what would define, a city? There has to be some monument where they fought for what they actually strive so hard for, and how do I represent that in the city center? Like we have the Gateway of India, say, so something where, we actually feel that, people have fought for the freedom. So there was this entire concept of, creating the entire map, the flag in 3 dimensions. So from wherever you travel in the city, you could actually see the flag and, the city which you fought for. And I think that sums up my presentation. That's a small snippet of my AK-47 files. Thank you very much.